Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. This is the Onslaught News Hour, and you're here on Where We Go When We Go All channel. I'm Brad CGZ, and good morning. It's a wonderful way to start the week. What's up, YouTube? What's up, Rumble? Good to see you guys. Guys, if you're not following my Rumble, go over there, rumble.com/BradCGZ. Same as here, same as Twitter or X, if you will. And of course, we have always a myriad of things. The fun never stops. Now that we're in Trump 2.0, the things he's doing are great, but also then there's going to be random pushback that we got to go on. But one of the first things I just want to talk about here or share here is some of the ICE raids that have been going down, and they have now gone to Minnesota. We've been talking a lot on my other shows, if you guys watch around Badlands Media, about what's been happening. A lot of light's been shed on Minnesota. Trump's been calling out Elon Omar, and there's been some controversy. A lot of illegal funds have been caught, taken out. So, and then there's also just the light of how is this allowed to happen? But ICE seems to have moved on, captured several criminal illegal aliens during an operation in Somaliland, Minnesota, Saturday. Democratic politicians are claiming ICE kidnapped innocent members of the community, but as always, almost certainly had warrants.
Get a camera.
What about you guys? This is what I voted for. I voted for ICE to get the illegal immigrants and just send them back to their home that they love so much. But I also voted for things like this because that's something we've been watching for a while. But one of the big things that dropped this Friday was the national security strategy of the United States of America. It's basically been on the tip of everyone's tongue all weekend, and it is based as now it says November, so this has already been out, which is funny because this is released on the heels of Trump making a statement about the anniversary of the Monroe Doctrine. Now, if you guys don't know the Monroe Doctrine, well, I'll go over some key points of that first, and then we could come back to this. So, Monroe Doctrine, this was signed in it was presented by President James Monroe, in his 7th annual message to Congress on December 2nd, 1823. This was primarily drafted by his Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, which is interesting little connection is that Monroe was also a Secretary of State before becoming president. He was Secretary of State for Thomas Jefferson, and while he was Secretary of State for Thomas Jefferson, he also made a significant move for the United States. He helped negotiate the Louisiana Purchase, which was the acquisition of territory of Louisiana by the United States from the French First Republic, which pretty much doubled the size of the United States. Let's see what Louisiana Purchase. Yeah, so let me pull this up here. So this is what we had before the purchase, and then this is what we got. That freaking basically doubled the size of the United States. And then we started adding on, filling in the old gaps, and then the rest is history. But yeah, the old Monroe Doctrine. So as James Monroe, he helped sign that when he was Secretary of State for President Jefferson. But in 1823, December 2nd, his Secretary of State mostly drafted the Monroe Doctrine, what has been come to known as the Monroe Doctrine. It was in response to European recolonization of newly independent Latin American nations after the revolutions against Spain and Portugal, and also Russian expansion into the Pacific Northwest. It's a foundational U.S. foreign policy principle, and Trump is basically resurrecting it now and then saying that it is about to be relevant again. It one of the main things it does is establish this Western Hemisphere as a U.S. sphere of influence. So basically telling Europe and Russia and Africa and Eurasia to put out of our business, essentially. Here are the four main tenets of it. One is non-colonization. The American continents, North and South America, would be no longer subject to future European colonization, and any attempt to establish new colonies would be viewed as dangerous to U.S. peace and safety. So, as you know, there was a lot of South American and Central American countries that were getting kind of picked up by different European countries, mostly Spain, but also Portugal and France and even Italy. And they were basically putting a hold on it, saying, all right, we won't bother what you have, but you can't get any more. There's also a tenet of it was non-intervention. The European powers were not to interfere in the affairs of the independent nations of the Americas, including extending their political systems or oppressing sovereign states, which we know so many foreign influences lord over the United States now, as it is. We look at there's foreign money, foreign lobbies. A lot of the people, a lot of the companies and big money that runs the United States right now that we call the deep state, some call the cabal. A lot of it all goes to Europe and Israel and all these different overseas places. The Crown, the Vatican. These are the main controllers that kind of lord over the world, but are at the ends of rabbit holes when you start digging into the people who are holding down the United States of America. So saying that European powers, and flies in the face of what the Monroe Doctrine says European powers should not interfere in the affairs of independent nations. The Americas, including extending their political systems or oppressing sovereign states. Such actions would be considered a manifestation of a, quote, unfriendly disposition towards the United States and potentially hostile. Non-intervention with existing colonies was another tenet, because the U.S. would, again, not disturb the existing European colonies or dependence in the Americas. So basically, whatever was there, it's fine. It stay there. It just can't go any further. And for U.S. non-interference in Europe, in reciprocity, the U.S. would not intervene in European wars, internal affairs, existing colonial matters outside the Americas. This reinforced separate spheres of influence, Republican systems in the New World versus monarchical ones in the Old World. Now, of course, that's been broken. World War I, World War II, wars in the Middle East. But those were all presented as defensive, right? And they blew up our supply ship when to get us into World War I. That was curiously left unguarded, even though they had seen German U-boats. And oh no, they blew it up. I guess we got to go into World War I. And then, it was very suspicious circumstances that came out after the Second World War about Pearl Harbor and how much did Roosevelt know. And apparently it was said that he did know. And this is in military tribunals. A lot of this has come out that they had moved a lot of the new world warships out and kind of left the old ones there to get bombed. And of course, then it's not we're not meddling in international affairs. We have to get involved. They attacked us. And then obviously you guys know my feelings on the September 11th attacks. Just watch Codex 9/11. And if you watched it, go watch it again. But seriously though, there's a lot of things packed in there that a lot of people have rewatched a few times now and said that they keep picking stuff up, because I tried to pack a lot of information in there, even just on the screen. I'm not even necessarily saying things out loud all the times, but you can stop the screen at every time and there will be a ton of info related to what I'm talking about. But that's basically the Monroe Doctrine. Theodore Roosevelt, he kind of added in 1904 that the U.S. could act as an international police power in cases of chronic wrongdoing. So that kind of flies in the face a little bit of it. Or an instability in Latin America, justifying U.S. interventions in Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic to preempt European involvement. The Cold War era, it was used to counter Soviet influence, most notably in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And, it kind of shifted in post-Cold War shifts. Modern uses is kind of, this is what Trump is talking about a lot in this act, and that's why it's relevant. He actually also mentions Monroe Doctrine. China's growing footprint in Latin America. China's been really digging their claws into Central America and South America. And it depending on how you look on that can be quite precarious. And there's been theories that President Xi, and even President Putin be almost working with Trump to help go against the New World Order. I kind of tend to believe that's true, but that still doesn't mean that we want them in our backyard, right? We can all be sovereign nations in our own areas and fight these people. So now let's go to the actual act here, and I'm gonna read some of the beginning of it to get a gist of it, and then we can go over some of the key parts I liked. So here's Trump's intro to it. He goes over the past 9 months. We have brought our nation and the world back from the brink of catastrophe and disaster. After 4 years of weakness, extremism, and deadly failures, my administration has moved with urgency and historic speed to restore American strength at home and abroad and bring peace and stability into our world. No administration in history has achieved so dramatic turnaround in such short time. I was talking about this on Alter State the other day. There's been a lot of things done. It's interesting because I see kind of the opposite being put forward, but when you start stacking up, securing the border, things like no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, and kind of pushing back on all the DEI, a lot of the things that the Doge team found, but even that's just, that whole spirit is continued, where a lot of these offices, governmental offices, are being stripped down, and they're also cutting down waste. And it's just been a lot of different things that have been going on. It's pretty cool. Let's go to the introduction here, where it talks about what it is. So it's how American strategy went astray. Ensure that America remains the world's strongest, richest, most powerful, and most successful country for decades to come. Our country needs a coherent, focused strategy for how we interact with the world. And to get that right, Americans need to know exactly what it is we're trying to do and why. I'd say that is absolutely a fine prediction. A strategy is a concrete, realistic plan that explains the essential connection between ends and means, begins from an accurate assessment of what is desired and what tools are available or can realistically be created to achieve the desired outcomes. Strategy must evaluate, sort, and prioritize. Not every country, region, issue, or cause, however worthy, can be the focus of American strategy. So, again, he goes into some of these. I'm going to jump forward. These are some of the spots that stuck out to me. I'm talking about commercial diplomacy. Actually, you know what? I want to go to this first because I really liked this right here. Flexible realism. U.S. policy will be realistic about what's possible and desirable to seek in its dealings with other nations. We see good relations and peaceful commercial relations with the nations of the world without imposing on them democratic or other social change that differs widely from the traditions and histories we recognize and affirm. There's nothing inconsistent or hypocritical in acting according to such a realistic assessment or in maintaining good relations with countries whose governing systems and societies differ from ours, even as we push like minded friends to uphold our shared norms, furthering our interests as we do. So basically, what a lot of things in this are talking about is the ability to work with people, work with other nations, but to almost isolate in the Western Hemisphere and to build them up. And I'm going to go over to you know what? This is where it starts getting good right here, page 16. The United States will prioritize commercial diplomacy to strengthen our own economy and industries, using tariffs and reciprocal trade agreements as powerful tools. Now, reciprocal trade, this is something that they've talked about, and there's a formula for it. Let's see if I can find that right now. So tariffs. So this is the formula they've been using right here. It's the reciprocal trade calculations, and it kind of gets into it. And basically, the way they've been figuring out the change in tariff rate on a country is they're taking their total exports and minusing their total imports to get top number, and then they're dividing that by the elasticity of imports with respect to import prices times the pass through from tariffs to import prices times total imports from the country, and then that's determining again the change in tariff rate on the country in question. So yeah, it is a pretty intricate system that they got set up there. This is again what they want to use tariffs or reciprocal trade agreements as tools. The goal is for our partner nations to build up their domestic economies, while an economically stronger and more sophisticated Western Hemisphere becomes an increasingly attractive market for American commerce and investment. Strengthening critical supply chains in this hemisphere will reduce dependencies and increase American economic resilience. The linkages created between America and our partners will benefit both sides while making it harder for non-hemispheric competitors to increase their influence in the region. So basically saying to build up the hemispheres around us, our neighbors. And the reason what this is doing is this is going to ease trade costs. So ease tariffs and all of that. And it's a lot cheaper to send something from, say, Central America or Canada into the United States and trade with them than something from overseas in Europe. So they're also, I like this where it says the United States must be preeminent in the Western Hemisphere as a condition of our security and prosperity, condition that allows us to assert ourselves confidently where and when we need to in the region. In terms of our alliances and the terms upon which we provide any kind of aid must be contingent on winding down adversarial outside influence, from control of military installations, ports, key infrastructure, to the purchase of strategic assets broadly defined. Some foreign influence will be hard to reverse given the political alignments between Latin America governments and certain foreign actors. However, many governments are not ideologically aligned with foreign powers, but are instead attracted to doing business with them for other reasons, including low costs and fewer regulatory hurdles. The United States has achieved success rolling back outside influence in the Western Hemisphere by demonstrating with specificity how many hidden costs in espionage, cybersecurity, debt traps, and other ways are embedded in allegedly, quote, low cost foreign assistance. We should accelerate these efforts, including utilizing U.S. leverage in finance and technology to induce countries to reject such assistance. So, this again, this is kind of a grab of the what, like saying over in the Americas, we're going to start taking this over. We're going to start making these alliances. We're going to start running the show over here in the light of the Monroe Doctrine. I suspect a lot of this has to do with the attacks on the narco terrorists, where they're fighting the terrorists right now, and this is all part of protecting the border, right? We shut the border down, and now this is really messing up their drug trade. So what are they doing? Well, they've always kind of done this, but it's been ramped up of late. But now they're trying to use the waterways to bring it in, and they're getting their asses blown up. This is, don't poison Americans. Don't be overarching drug kingpin, and you won't get blown up. So that's a lot of what the posturing in this is. I feel just say, yeah, here we go. This is good too. In the Western Hemisphere and everywhere in the world, the United States should make clear that American goods, services, and technologies are far better to buy in the long run because they're higher quality and do not come with the same kind of strings as other countries' assistance. This is part of the new economy. This is part of the tariffs. Again, in the immediate tariffs, other countries, they are raising their prices to make up for the tariffs. And so it is resulting in higher prices. But the whole thing with why this is the long game is when you start building up American manufacturing and higher quality and making all these products here, all of a sudden, now they start going way down. Now you have no tariffs and no overseas shipping costs. You're just literally going state to state, and things start dropping exponentially. And now these countries, who are up their prices to pay for the tariffs, have to lower that and start eating the tariffs to even compete. And then you get a competitive market again that lifts up the American consumer and the American manufacturer. So it's a long-term goal. If they can pull it off and stick with it, it's just going to skyrocket the American economy. And what we're doing here too, just the whole idea of ramping up our relationships closer to home than far away is going to be pretty freaking major. Basically, it goes on to say the choice that all countries should face is whether they want to live in an America-led world of sovereign countries and free economies, or a parallel one in which they're influenced by countries on the other side of the world. And this is again the against the globalism argument, where we have to be all interconnected. But one thing I really love that Trump brings to the table is showing that we don't have to do that. We're a sovereign nation. We can be ourselves and still work with these other countries. We don't have to be some amalgamation, globalist, interconnected network of countries. All these different countries, if they go for their own best interests and then literally just deal with each other the way it's been for a long time, that raises up each country individually is raised up from this. And this is what Trump has been bringing back, and the whole idea of that. So again, this goes on. There's a lot more cool stuff. I like this on page 19. Let me jump to this. It says the United States must also resist and reverse measures such as targeted taxation, unfair regulation, and expropriation that disadvantage U.S. businesses. And again, this is how they got them. This was kind of like the setup to get them to leave, where we have to tax the big businesses. And then the big businesses are like, all right, peace. And then they just go to another country for they don't have to deal with our labor laws. They don't have to deal with OSHA. They don't have to deal with nothing. And that was almost assuredly a setup to do that for that reason. So you start knocking that down, they will start coming back. And again, that builds up manufacturing, which is going to work so well with the tariffs. And these are things that are also going to put money back in the pockets of American citizens, because they bring back manufacturing. Yeah, you get better quality products straight from America that can be sold at a lower price. But you're also just raising the economy of wherever that plant is put. So it raises all around, and it works out great for everybody. So I go on and read a lot of this, but I do want to, speaking of the economy, I do want to touch on this right here, because there's a $12 billion farm aid program that is expected to be announced today. The plan to provide the aid to the nation's farming industry comes as many have endured financial hardship due to low crop prices, the fallout associated with tariff policies, and other economic challenges. A White House official told Bloomberg News that Trump plans to announce the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program on Monday afternoon at an event which will reportedly be attended by farmers, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins. So again, helping the farmers. This all works hand in hand. All of these different things. This is by June of next year. You can bookmark this right now. By June, July, let's see, of next year, 2026, the economy is going to be off like a freight train. And again, you can bookmark this right now. This is at 28 minutes and 17 seconds. It's going to be going off like a runaway train. And that's going to be the summer of 2026. They're laying the foundation for everything right now. They're also opening up all this different mining and resource mining, and or whether it be copper or oil and all these different things up here in Alaska and all over the country. All that stuff, you're going to start seeing the results of it by next summer. And then, barring any psychotic crap that they continuously pulled in Trump's first administration, it should just continue to take off. Quote here says, economic aid is urgently needed in the countryside as most farmers will begin planting their next crop early in 2026, with some crops already planted. They must have their financial commitments in place as they secure lines of credit, Newton said in November. Quote, many leaders will not count federal support on a balance sheet until it is certain, heightening the urgency, especially given that $12 billion is only a portion of the economic losses farmers have already accumulated. Rollins previously touted the administration's dedicated efforts to help farmers during the current economic challenges. She teased the release of the FBA program during a cabinet meeting on December 2nd. Says, we do have a bridge payment we will be announcing with you next week, and we're still trying to recover from the Biden years. Yeah, aren't we all? Oh my gosh. That's another thing too, is a lot of the energy costs between the farmers and the energy costs a lot of these things should by next summer start bringing groceries down, because we all know they've been absolutely insane. I got an inflation chart here, and Trump has been able to keep it under 3. Let's see where to start. Yeah, Biden ramped back up to 3 right before he left, and he was able to bring it down right away to 2.3, and now it's hovering right about 3. And if you remember, for Trump's entire first time in office, he kept it under 3 the entire time. And then guess where Biden takes office? Right here. And he took it up to 9%. I can't believe that this even happened. And again, this all bills. Finally came down into just over the 3s. And it was around 3 when Trump took office. And he's still been keeping it afloat, which is freaking great. And I see this starting to come down again, probably in spring, summer. That'll start coming down. And then we'll start seeing some of these valleys right here, which is a beautiful thing when it comes to inflation. Obviously, inflation only moves in one direction, but if you can pause it long enough, the wages catch up, and then you're good. Inflation is artificial, though, so maybe getting rid of the Fed is a better way to fix inflation with their fake ass economy that they planned. I thought this was pretty cool. This is also Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And he is talking about, let's listen in here. This is a cool clip.
The federal government for children born in the period you just described is going to put $1,000 into these Trump accounts. It will be invested in a widely diversified low-cost index, and then it will be available
in the stock market,
in the stock market,
exchange-traded fund or mutual fund.
So in essence, it is a trust fund. It is a piece of the American economy for every child, and they will be able to take it out when they're 18, or they can convert it to a more IRA type program and keep it for their retirement.
So there won't be the restrictions I mentioned there about how they use the money?
No.
Okay. So there was also a broadening of this past week with the Dell Foundation making a significant investment in the American children.
Billions.
So how is this going to work? Why structure it this way instead of a savings account, for example?
Well, a savings account just gets interest. This is the compounding power of the stock market. As Warren Buffett says, don't bet against the American stock market. Don't bet against the economy. And this is going to bring a whole group of new investors into the market. We're going to couple it with a big amount of financial literacy so that children understand what they own. The Incredible Gift by Michael and Susan Dell will be is a program that philanthropists, foundations can do to top up these accounts. And we are expecting, we're already at Treasury's already in discussions with foundations, with major philanthropists to top up these accounts. It could either be for all children, or you can specify it by zip code, a school district, or you can do what the Dells did and say that it won't apply to the zip codes of the top 20% of earners.
Yeah, so I think this is really cool. This is a really good thing that they're doing for the youth of America. This is, again, investments that are coming in. It's also good for the stock market. But yeah, this is, it kind of is going to give these young kids a leg up starting off. And that's a beautiful thing. One thing President Trump and his administration have been doing is investing in the future of America. And that's what it's all about, man. The future of America is everything. We all often talk about the psyops and the psychological attacks they put on people, and that's important too. And one of the psychological things is just constant debt that they level you on your head. So this is a good step forward. Obviously, changing the narratives and doing a lot of the overhaul of the Department of Ed is super important. uh, overhauling the fake news and consistently just destroying their credibility. Very important. We've seen some changes start to happen in Hollywood, although there are still things like Netflix and stuff was kind of being groomerish and weird. So it's not all good, but there have been total pushbacks on this woke apocalypse. So that's a good thing. Say what's up to chat. What's up, guys? I see you over there. See you guys over in Rumble. I see you guys over in YouTube. Willie Wills says if the president DJT wasn't being sabotaged by rhinos and Democrats, we would be doing so much better. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the constant case. Trump didn't get his full administration to March and later. Yeah, but they are pretty much off to the races right now, which is a beautiful thing. I think people are going to be surprised at the speed of how things start happening, especially as things get underway in 2026. Also over here on YouTube, America the Free says, "Hey Brad, hope you've been fine. Long time no see on my feed." Yeah, I'm gonna try and do this a little more often. Pop on here, just kind of hang out, talk some news of the day, and see what's up with everybody. I figured I'd test this out. For all you guys who have missed me, I am over on Rumble, and I do live stream at Badlands Media every Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I haven't been doing it on my channels a lot, but I've been doing 2 to 4 live streams a week for a long time at this point. And so, but I'm going to start doing more on my channels and hang out here. And again, if you guys aren't subscribed to me on Rumble, go to rumble.com/BradCGZ. I wish I pushed that more before the bottom dropped out last time. But yes, but shout out everyone over on YouTube, and also shout out over here at Rumble. We do have there are something that let's see what we got over here. Old Rumble. So let's be clear about cryptocurrency, and we're going to talk about this for a second. Let's be clear, cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in Crow, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low fee DeFi staking rewards, and real world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. If you want into the action, just head to crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again. Okay. This is, I swear this is my first rodeo, but I totally just exited out of the wrong tab. So nice. Good times. Good start to my first show back. So that's a cool program they got going over there in Rumble, where they actually could have some ads if you like. So very, very supportive of independent media. So that's a beautiful thing. And yeah, so moving forward, this is kind of a different sort of story, kind of a cool thing that was going on here. Let's see if I could get this. This is President Trump hosted the Kennedy Center Honors Awards ceremony. There were prominent figures like Sylvester Stallone, band Kiss, Gloria Gaynor, and he hosted it on Sunday, becoming the first U.S. president to lead the ceremony. How cool is that? The annual event has honored celebrities for their influence on American culture and arts since 1978. This year, the ceremony honored actor Sylvester Stallone for the Rocky and Rambo series, which he played the titular characters. Thanks. Gloria Gaynor for her song "I Will Survive," and the rock band Kiss, country music singer George Strait, and Tony Award winner actor Michael Crawford. In regards to Kiss, R.I.P. Ace. Ace Frehley, man, was one of my favorite guitarists of all time. He passed away a couple weeks ago. We honored him on my Saturday show, the Audio Files. Talk a lot of music over there. And yeah, dude, Ace was a wild man, and he lived fast, and he left quite the legacy of kick-assery. And and good times. I saw Ace at the Nokia Theater in Times Square, and it was pretty awesome. I also saw the Kiss reunion tour, and Ace and Peter Criss were both in that, and that was awesome. That was back in the 90s, but yeah, I saw Ace by himself in the 2000s, a Frehley's Comet, and man, it was just such a cool energy. The dude rocks. So yeah, rest in peace, brother. And then also you had, Stallone was there. This is an amazing event, but he caught up in the middle of it. It's hard to take it in until the next day, but I'm incredibly humbled by it. And we have a bit of a breakdown here.
Tonight, household names from the music and film industries are being recognized at the 48th Annual Kennedy Center Honors. Our Julie Donaldson has more from the event.
We're at the red carpet at one of the premier events in Washington, D.C., the Kennedy Center Honors. Now, it celebrates some iconic figures and their contributions to American culture. So, of course, we talk to all the celebrities coming down the red carpet. But since you're in Washington, D.C., you have to talk to a few politicians as well. And, of course, President Donald Trump making an appearance himself.
Politicians.
This is the greatest evening in the history of the Kennedy Center. Not even a contest. There's never been anything like it.
The president took over as chairman of the board for the Kennedy Center, claiming it was deteriorating, and says they are already making improvements.
It could never be built again. It's got three massive places, call them. You have different stages, dance, theater, and you have a place that we're going to be in tonight that there's really nothing like it in the country.
Trump was also heavily involved in selecting this year's honorees, featuring Sylvester Stallone, known for writing and starring in Rocky, playing Rambo, and Dwight the General in Tulsa King. And the rock band Kiss, celebrating over 50 years of elaborate performances.
Every day has been amazing. America, we invented the superhero, rock and roll, blues, movies, everything that makes the world a happier place.
But I never thought, I'm a kid from the streets of Brooklyn. I never thought ever I'd be, doing something like this.
The night also celebrates Grammy Award-winning disco icon Gloria Gaynor. Her song, "I Will Survive," a theme song for so many. Country music legend George Strait, who has 60 #1 hits, and Michael Crawford, the Tony Award-winning actor best known for originating the role of Phantom of the Opera.
I think it's a huge honor. I mean, really, there's no bigger honor, honestly, to be celebrated by this group of people. This is a celebration based upon the admiration of the entire country and by your peers. It's an extraordinary thing to get this honor.
It's remarkable, and what a way to start the holiday season, being here with all these icons. And I grew up listening to Kiss, the band, but I also,
Nice.
I love Michael Crawford. There are so many, and George Strait. So there, Gloria Gaynor. Come on, just amazing icons of music.
For the first time ever, a president will be hosting the honors tonight. President Donald Trump taking on those duties himself. We talked to a few people on the red carpet on what to expect tonight. The public will not be able to see the full show until the end of December, but there's going to be a lot of surprises, a lot of great entertainment, some musical acts, some good mashups. But of course, it's going to be the premiere show to make sure you catch.
Well, what do you know? So they mentioned the Phantom of the Opera. My wife always talks about Phantom of the Opera. One of these days, I'm sure I'm going to be forced to watch it. But I don't hate musicals. My dad used to always play when we were kids. Jesus Christ Superstar. That's kind of like rock and a hard rock. So I always thought that was cool. And then I've seen others. I don't know. They're escaping me right now, but I know I've seen other musicals that I thought was cool. Oh, the South Park, the movie. That's a cool musical, which it is. Actually, it is a musical. I took a music theater class in high school because I was like, man, musicals are cool. I had seen, like I said, Jesus Christ Superstar. And then all of a sudden they're showing me like Showboat and things like this. And I'm like, oh, this is not what I was expecting, but they were cool too. So yeah. But yeah, the wife's always talking about Phantom of the Opera. I'm sure I'm going to bite that bullet one day. I don't know, man. Who knows? Maybe that would be cool too. Shout out to America the Free over on Rumble. Now a monthly supporter. My man. Right on. Yeah, everyone. Yeah. Definitely. These are my two platforms right here. Definitely hop over, say what up. And it's just good to see you guys. But like I said, I'm going to be doing this a little more often, hopping on here some random times, do a little news, do a little shooting the shit, and yeah, we'll just see what's going on in the world. How about that? Here's something that's should be going on. I don't know, could even be going on right now, depending. What was it, about 8:46 on the East Coast? Oh, by the way, for everyone over in YouTube, I moved to Alaska a couple of years ago, so quite the change, but I mean, it's just like freaking awesome. But yeah. And it is way earlier over here right now. But yeah, so here's it's just something interesting that's going down. Supreme Court's gonna consider Trump's power to remove high-level bureaucrats, and this is based on when he, where is it right here? Yeah, this is when he let go of Rebecca Slaughter in March. This is the letter he sent her. I'm writing to inform you, you have been removed from the Federal Trade Commission effective immediately. And it's what you got to do. None of these other presidents ever hesitate to do stuff like this. Obama came in and just started moving people out and moving his people in. Everyone, that's all they do. But when Trump does it, it's like, oh my God, can you do this? Well, it's going to be finally heard by the Supreme Court. She was ordered by lower level courts to get her job back. And they're citing the Humphreys executive versus the United States. This is a 90-year-old Supreme Court precedent that says that the president can't do this. So, but the Supreme Court's going to hear it today. And we'll see. They're set to hear oral arguments in Trump versus Slaughter, which focuses on the president's attempt to remove Rebecca Slaughter as a commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission. And again, this is something that's essential or central, if you will, to the things he's trying to do with the economy. So you would, of course, want people who are on board with what you want to do there, and not these enemies that he's had to deal with his whole first term. He had nothing but enemies and snakes surrounding him everywhere. And that, again, this is coming in after Obama, of course. As it was going to be the case. We were just looking at that letter a little bit. Sent on March 18th. It told her that her continued service was inconsistent with his administration's priorities and that he was removing her pursuant to his authority under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. He notably did not identify any inefficiency, neglect, or duty or malfeasance, which are the basis for which Congress said in the Federal Trade Act that presidents could fire commissioners. So that's kind of what they're harping on. And then, of course, they're also harping on this 1935 case. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. And we'll probably know that later in the day. I wonder if there's a place where if I could check for an update. Maybe I could do that in a minute. And speaking of which, you know what? Let's check in. Speaking of checking in, let's check in with one Donald J. Trump. This is what he just posted 29 minutes ago. It says there must only be one rule book if we're going to continue to lead in AI. We're beating all countries at this point in the race. That won't last long if we're going to if we are going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors involved in rules and the approval process. There can be no doubt about this. AI will be destroyed in its infancy. I will be doing a one rule executive order this week. Can't expect a company to get 50 approvals every time they want to do something. That will never work. He's also working on a lot of people, a lot of his loyalists running for governor and Senate. So this could be part of that. I was talking last night with Burn Bright about basically the importance of having a Trump MAGA guy as governor in all these states. Governor is extremely powerful. We learned this during COVID, where all of a sudden they were like little dictators. If you were in the wrong state, I was living in New Jersey during COVID, and Phil Murphy was abhorrent. What he did to the citizens of New Jersey was horrendous. Everyone always talks about Cuomo, also freaking horrendous, but I'd say that Murphy was probably worse. I think Murphy might have been the worst in the country. It's almost a crime that he didn't get much coverage during it. But again, yeah, so that's so he's working on the AI. A lot of the stuff he's been working on is tech type stuff. And again, that's part of what they're doing up here in Alaska. They're opening up the Ambler Road project, and that's going to help copper mining. Obviously, you need copper for this type of work, and like infrastructure and any sort of energy work as well, energy infrastructure. And then obviously, energy in general is a ton of oil up here. And that's where he's opened up Anwar. So there's a lot of different things going on. And what I mentioned in the beginning of the show was him shutting down the border. And to me, this is one of the most central things he ran on. And they've been showing a lot of ice, right? About 2 million illegals have either self-deported or have been deported by ICE. It's a big deal. But they've also shut down the border. And Tom Homan made the statement yesterday that the Trump administration has rescued over 62,000 migrant children from sex trafficking and forced labor. This is all coming over the border. And what's one of the main things we talked about early on was the human trafficking and child trafficking and crimes against children. And that's going to be one of the uniters. So this is a huge deal. If you remember early on, 2017, 2018, where you're talking about child trafficking, and a lot of us, it was sort of new to us. You start looking up things and saying, upwards of 800,000 children go missing each year. And then they were like trying to walk in. Once we all started talking about it, then all of a sudden the headlines started changing. We're like, well, it's not exactly 800,000. So a lot of them are runaways who come home. And you're like, okay, so what is it? It's only 200,000. 200,000? Okay, that's also horrendous. Like missing every year? 200,000 kids? That's insane. And there's so that's stuff that's just domestically happening to American kids. And then on top of it, you have kids being trafficked from Central and South America into the United States, probably to these same trafficking rings for, again, sex trafficking and forced labor. It's absolutely disgusting. And let's hear his entire statement here. Weren't even being looked for under President Biden. And not that that's shocking, but that should be pretty eye-opening right there. And dude, how great is Tom Holman? Tom Holman's a freaking animal, right? And was that, did I even play that? Okay. Let's play this again.
I look at the numbers every day. On Friday, I looked at the numbers. There's over 62,000 children found by the Trump administration. Children that weren't even being looked for under the Biden administration. President Trump saved over 62,000 children's lives. Some of these children were in sex trafficking, we found them. Some were in forced labor. Some were being mistreated. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment we found out about. President Trump, again, proves why he's the greatest president in my lifetime. Over 62,000 children rescued by President Trump. Again, children that were ignored and weren't being looked for under President Biden. I look at the numbers.
Yeah, dude. They were just, I mean, weren't being looked for. They were actively being encouraged to come here. Everyone was, and they knew what was happening. They know what that entails. So they can't play dumb and say, oh, well, we were just encouraging undocumented immigrants to come here. Well, with coyotes, or how you say it? It's like coyotes or coyotes or whatever. Frick. Kamala Harris screwed me all up now with that word. I think it might just be coyotes, but they all know what's going on with these. A lot of them are given as tribute that they want to come in. So if you can give them a kid to bring, it greatly lowers the amount of money you have to pay to go in. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. But dude, again, like I was starting to say before I realized I wasn't playing the video, how based is Tom Holman, dude? The dude's an animal. You know, he was talking about the border, and this is what I love about Trump, and he's been doing this with a lot of people, where he was talking about the border and all this stuff, and Trump was like, hey, you don't like what's going on the border? Jump on board, bro. Jump on the team. Let's fix it together. And then Holman was like, let's do it. And he's been doing it. So he's giving these people a chance and saying, yeah, you don't like what you see? Let's put our heads together and fix it together. So freaking awesome, man. Yo, and shout out over Rumble, Faux Hammer, Black Hat Destroyer. What's up, dudes? Good to see you. Kitsko, what's going on? Emily. Yeah, thanks for coming over and hanging out, guys. Yeah, I figured I want to start streaming over here a little more than I have. I was like, I'm completely just neglecting my pages. So, you know, I have a YouTube and a Rumble that I never use. So, yeah, might as well just hop on here, shoot shit with you guys, talk some news, talk some headlines, and talked about base madmen kicking the illegals out of this country. And sounds like fun to me. So, yeah. So I'm glad you guys are coming to hang out. And again, hopefully it's a cool start to your weekend. I'm over here in Alaska. It just hit 5 a.m. So it's pretty early. Me and the wife were doing a late nighter, and I had a marathon last night. I had 2 streams. So collectively, well, there's a little gap in between, but it was about a 7-hour run. And then I was just like, I was looking at my Rumble page. I was like, I gotta start coming on here also. Well, why not? So here I am, and it's cool to be hanging out. Let's see if I missed anything. I pretty much have gone through most of what I wanted to go through. Yeah, the Monroe Doctrine and all that fun stuff. I'm sure that was a pretty boring way to start the stream, but it's okay. This is something that kind of this is like something that bothers me. Judge temporarily blocks the DOJ's access to key evidence in the Comey case. And this was just on Saturday. Barred prosecutors from accessing evidence seized from ex-FBI Director James Comey's former attorney, complicating the Department of Justice bid to revive a case against him, which they're definitely going to rebring the case. And it's a 4-page ruling. U.S. District Judge Colleen Cotterly granted Daniel Richman's bid for a temporary restraining order. One good thing that's coming out of all this is all these woke, crazy judges are totally revealing themselves. And, there's impeachments that are going to start coming down for a lot of them. And she said, given that the custody and control of this material is the central issue in the matter, uncertainty about its whereabouts weighs in favor of acting properly to preserve the status quo. Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see what happens with one Mr. James Comey, because I don't think it's looking good for him, and they're not going to let up on that. Here's the last thing that I had lined up. And this is kind of not a huge thing, but the Teamsters we're talking about Chavez DeReamer. They like her as the labor secretary, and that's cool, dude. My dad was a Teamster, and it was a pretty big deal when the Teamsters, they always pretty much either stay neutral, or a lot of unions they vote left. When they came out and said we're voting Trump, that was a huge freaking deal. And O'Brien said she was the only choice that we had under this administration, and was actually going to attempt to do stuff for the working class people. And he says, as far as I'm concerned, she was the right choice. She's doing a good job. She's out there meeting with workers, not just with companies. She's actually meeting with the rank and file members. And that's a big deal. I think that's a theme right now of the Trump administration is, and Trump himself is being a man of the people. And this is a guy, and again, I worked on Trump jobs when I was a kid, my early 20s and mid to late 20s on other ones too. And he'd come to the top and off parties. And of course, as the surveyor, we'd always miss a lot of the top and off parties because we'd be laying out freaking concrete. And we'd come down later and then like grab food and stuff. So we'd miss a lot of the ceremonies. But that crew I was working with, they had just come off Trump Millennium Tower, and that's over on the east side. There's so I think it was like the tallest apartment building at the time. And they said he was there meeting with everyone, having a good time. So this is a regular dude. This is again, a man of the people. So, and it would make sense that his administration, he would make sure would also be along those lines, which is pretty freaking sweet. So getting ready to wrap up here. But let's see if we got any more campaigns available, if you will. Says you must wait for accepting another campaign. Okay, I don't know the ways of the Rumble Studio just yet, but it says you can read another one in 4 minutes. Okay, so they have to split it up a bit. I guess I should have read that first. Yeah, so it's good to see you guys. Again, go check out my Rumble page, if you will. And good to see you guys over on YouTube as well. And GA Dog says, man, just seeing you live. What's up, bro? Willie Willie Willis, Texas. This Codex 911 is an alarm of a movie by Brad. Yeah, thanks, bro. It is up to. Let's see. Let's check in on some of the numbers here. Got this. Oh, it's the post-stream discussion. Here we go. It's Codex 911. Maybe you guys have heard of it. Up to 1.1 million views. I can't even believe that. That's freaking nuts right there. That is the most views I've ever gotten on a video ever. Before that, let's see. We can go over to before that, most was this one, Democratic Party walk away, 743,000.
I feel like the bottom has to fall out at some point. And by the
way, 707,000 for that one. Maybe you guys know this one dropped 2808, 553,000. Over here, I got this posted 10,000. But damn, dude, freaking 1.1 million views on this. Thank you guys so much. By the way, this was a labor of love. For many of you who have been following me on Badlands, you know that I've been working on this. I mean, technically, I started really writing everything out in the fall of 2021. Then I really started going at it in, say, like the beginning of 2023, January of 2022. So about 3 years, and there's a lot of stuff packed into here, and I'm gonna start doing something too, live streaming, where I have a lot of. I went through. You could imagine watching this. I have gone through an insane amount of live coverage. So I have like 6 hours of the CBS 9/11 coverage. 8 hours of Fox. There's all these different things. And I thought at some point, maybe on the overnights here on my Rumble page, I might start doing a twofold where I'll live stream one of them and just let it play for 8 hours. And this is something that fascinates me, but it could be cool. And then on my Substack, I'll release my notes, because a lot of them, as I watched it, and I took notes on key things that were happening. And, it was not a ton of things. It was maybe when people mentioned bombs, or, maybe what the planes looked like, or just things that I thought were interesting. So maybe I'll release my notes for, say, whatever I'm going to play that night on Substack. And then I'll let one play here and there. Maybe I'll just do that from time to time on my Rumble. Again, I like that sort of stuff, so it'd be cool to start getting those on Rumble anyway. And you just always want to preserve that type of stuff. But yeah, man, I have, oh my gosh, dude, my files, just my raw 9/11 folders are just insane. The amount of stuff I've collected over the years. Let me see how many. It won't even give me. I'll let it build up in properties. 619 gigs, 8,893 files, 340 folders. Holy crap. Yeah, so almost 3/4 of a terabyte of good old 9/11 information. But yeah, thank you guys, man. I couldn't have done any of this without you, and thank you for spreading it and turning it into obviously it was a passion project of mine. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart. I was living in New Jersey during 9/11. We saw the smoke cross the water, and just New Jersey was like a ghost town after that. And it was just creepy, and watching all that, and it really affected our area. And I bought the official narrative, hook, line, and sinker, and which it's like in hindsight, it's like, how could you? But it was a good one, man. You know, everyone was feeling like, I want to destroy whoever freaking did this. And they were like, hey, let me fill in that gap for you, Sonny. And they're very good at that. They get you angry, and then they fill in the gap of who you should be angry at, allegedly. And we all jumped on it, and it was a crazy ride. And we're just finally getting out of the Middle East now. Isn't that insane? When you think about how long ago 9/11 was, that we're just starting to get out of the Middle East. So yeah, so I think that would be cool to start posting some of that stuff. Black Hat Story says, did you give a channel called Fall of the Cabal series permission to play Codex 9/11? No, I have seen it posted everywhere, which, you know what? I just take it as a compliment. What are you going to do? You're going to track people down. It's stuff that I wanted to expose. You guys were gracious enough, and you voluntarily donated, and I've bought a lot of power tools of late of that. I'm actually starting to build a woodshed outside with a lot of them, so it's really cool. But there were people when we debuted this at GART who were pretty insistent and with great motivation, just regular fans who was like, dude, you should really put this behind a paywall. You worked really hard on this, and then we love it. And they really said, they made me feel really great about it. Just didn't want to do that. And whatever, people are re-uploading it. I want to expose this. So my main motivation is to expose 9/11. I have a whole bunch of other documentaries that I never made 5 cents off of. And so anything I made off this was gravy, and I really thank you guys for that. And also, thank you guys for hanging out. And yeah, it'd be cool to start airing some of that raw 9/11 footage. Who knows? Maybe this is what my dream is, to start just putting them on file. Then maybe you guys start catching stuff that I missed, and my notes will be jump off points. But I'm gonna pull this down here for a minute, and let's see. Why don't we talk about, we got controllers or coffee? You know what? Well, you know what? Actually, no. Let's talk about Rumble Premium. I really love Rumble. I have Rumble Premium, and it's really awesome. And you guys have probably noticed Rumble is growing fast. It's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. Beautiful, amazing, rare thing these days. And now there's Rumble Premium. It's an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, the Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. You just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. And thank you to Rumble for all you've done for free speech. And I would definitely suggest it. Like I said, I've had Rumble Premium for a couple of years now, and it is really, really worth it. And again, thank you guys all for hanging out. And just looking at the chat here, I see a lot of familiar faces. Love you guys. And also love you guys after over on YouTube as well. Cat looking up says, just finished Q after hours. Did you sleep? Great seeing you back on YouTube. No, I have not slept yet. Abby and I have been going over projects and different things and talking Christmas, and it's just late, and we were just both like, you know what? I just want to do a stream right now. And, we're both working on our Rumble pages and we're like, we should just both go live. And so that's what we're doing. Although I am going to pop out of here in a minute and I will definitely get some sleep. And hey, here's a good friend, Kitsko Rocks. And with a super chat, says, although you deserve it all, thank you for being a true OG. It's all about the share. Hashtag Codex 911. Oh, right on. Right on. Yeah. And you know what? I think it's a beautiful thing that people would even want to post it. And I would hope they'd maybe put my information in and send to my page, but whatever, man. Just screw these people, screw them for whatever they did. And it's insane. The more you dig into 9/11, you're just like, oh my God, how did I believe any of this? It's just absolutely nuts. And so I'm just so happy to have it out there and to just have friends like you guys hang out and go over it. And yeah, and hopefully I'll be doing a little more on that. I have some kind of, I guess, reverse 9/11 research, kind of different things I want to address, other theories that maybe will be short videos, like maybe 5-10 minute breakdown videos, or maybe a little longer that I'll be doing in the future. I don't necessarily timetable that will, I'm sure, add to the story or what I think. And then again, like I was saying, probably post a lot of that raw footage in conjunction with my Substack, so you can see my notes on it. So that should be fun, and just some cool stuff to have on the channel, on the page as well. Well, and with that, I will bid you guys adieu. Thank you for hanging out. It's been a pleasure, and I will be doing this more often, so keep your eye out. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, dudes.